Hello, we are now live. Welcome to another episode of Live with Marcel and Kilani. And today is a day that we're talking about gratitude. And I wonder why we're bringing up this topic.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back. Thank you for joining us this week. And yes, I think it's always a good time to be grateful, especially as we're coming up on a very special holiday centered around gratitude. It's funny for me talking about that because I'm here in Canada, for those of you who don't know. So we had our Thanksgiving almost 2 months ago now. But I think that there's never a wrong time to be grateful. In fact, I think that being practicing gratitude and being grateful at all times is perfect. So thank you for joining us. Feel free to comment in the comment section. If you're here live, comment live. If you're watching the replay, let us know you're here for the replay. And as always, let us know your thoughts in the comments. We love it when you guys are interactive. Let us know what comes up for you. If you want to question us, if you want to agree with us, whatever comes up, put it in the chat and we'll bring it up on the screen and have a conversation around it.
Awesome, yeah, and thanks for the intro, Kinani. So of course, gratitude. It's American Thanksgiving, and I honestly believe that commercialism is turning American Thanksgiving into like a global holiday, right? Because American Thanksgiving is immediately followed by Black Friday, and everybody's like,
I'm getting ready for Black Friday already.
yeah, I think the whole world is getting ready for Black Friday, right? So in a way, it's quite interesting how kind of commercialism has created this awareness of even though they only celebrate American Thanksgiving anyway, only in the United States. Everywhere in the world, everybody's waiting for Black Friday to happen because it's like, oh, it's going to be it's going to be a great time for getting some of those discounts and some of those sales in. So hence we're all feeling a little bit of the effects of American Thanksgiving all the way and around the world as we start appreciating those discounts that are coming around that we're that we're looking forward to. So of course it couldn't be more befitting than doing a session on gratitude, and in particular, of course, because of course this is a we like to focus and specialize on leadership for a large part, right? So for us it was more a topic of gratitude and leadership, right? And what's the significance of it, and what can we do to kind of show a little bit more of it, and why is this such a relevant and such an important leadership competency?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think gratitude is a very undervalued yet very powerful tool, and something that I'm really glad is becoming more of a common conversation both in personal lives. I know the idea of gratitude lists has become almost probably a daily practice for a lot of people, whether you do that in your head or have a physical journal you write that in. But I'm really glad that this is a topic that's now also coming into leadership, because gratitude really is so powerful. Even just being able to feel and appreciate and being able to go a step further and actually express that can really create the transformative change that a lot of us are looking for and feel that may be unachievable.
Yeah. And we have a comment coming in from Hina. She says she's joining in live from Melbourne, Australia. So thank you, Hina, for joining us. That's awesome. And as we get into the conversation, always remember you can comment, you can ask questions, or anything that you really want to address in today's episode. So a question that I have a lot, right, with my clients when we're in that coaching process is, a lot of clients say, well, I can't just be grateful for my employees showing up because I need them to work. And if I'm already showing gratitude for them just showing up, then they're not going to do anything anymore. What's your thinking of that, Ken? I need that mindset.
Well, it's really funny for me that you bring that up, because while you were saying that, the big question is in my mind is, why do we believe that? Why is the common thinking, oh, if I'm grateful for what's already here, things are going to get worse. Suddenly, the second we're satisfied, boom, everything's done. No more progress, right? Which is really fascinating to me because, and this is my own anecdotal experience, but when we practice gratitude, that's actually when things start to pick up and we start to actually see the progress and results that we want. So the first thing that comes to my mind is, where does that thinking come from? Why do we struggle so much to just be happy with what's already here and what's already happening?
Yeah, and I mean, we can create a great philosophical conversation around that. But the truth is, society is full, right, of messages that that what we are producing in life is not enough. And we're surrounded, right, by people who live, or who have even invented a definition of success that we think that we all have to live by, and that when we don't meet certain expectations, then we have no reason to be grateful, right? And so we see that in schools, for example. The whole reason that when kids grow up in schools and they get grades for their work, right, is in a way already telling kids, hey, listen, you have to meet a certain standard of expectation. And and how many kids get high fives from their parents when they get an F, right, in school, for example, right, when they fail school. So I think it's a learned behavior over time that just from messaging, from whether it's in schools or whether it's in sport, right? And very very few people celebrate the losers in sport, right? The whether it's in let's say in business, if you're a salesperson and you have sales target. I had this conversation yesterday, with a salesperson that is they're reaching the end of the year and they have certain targets that they have to hit before the end of the year, and there's a lot of pressure that's being put on them by senior leadership, right, to have to kind of hit those targets. And as he was saying it, he almost feels like his value in life, right, is to meet that expectation. And that if he doesn't meet that expectation, he has no value, right? And I think a lot of life works that way, is that we start developing this belief system that we have no value unless we are doing something or accomplishing something or achieving something. And of course, none of that is real, right? It's all imposed upon us to a point where it becomes our own self-driving message. There a lot of people go through life, kind of believing, hey, listen, if I don't have that mention, and my kids aren't going to Harvard, and I'm like, all of those kind of things, I'm not going to be happy. And my kids are not going to be happy if they don't get to do anything less than go to Harvard, or and it's like we have such a belief system around expectations and accomplishments, that is constantly driving that need to keep pushing forward. And unfortunately, of course, that comes at a great cost, right? If you look at, for example, mental health right now, mental health in around the world is declining to at such rapid rates. I think the American Psychological Association, they did a research study, and please don't quote me on this, but I think it's like 80% of workers in the United States are stressed out. I mean, that's a tremendous number, right? This is not it's like, oh, there are a few people here and there. This is people who suffer the effects of stress and burnout every single day of their lives, simply because there is this common acceptance, or this common recognition that if they have no value if they don't achieve X, Y, and Z. And I think that's one of the greatest challenges. Oh, we have a comment coming in from Austin, so I'm just going to pop that up. So Austin says, I think people are bred to always crave more. The second they decide to have or express gratitude for their now, they feel it stagnates the growth, as you said, Kinani, right? And drive in their future. What they don't realize, of course, is that that gratitude is actually that's not mutually exclusive. Yeah, and I love that. And thank you, Aaron or Austin, for sharing that, because you're absolutely spot on, right? There is they aren't mutually and actually what's interesting is, like, you kind of opened with is that if we have the capacity to be grateful, if we have the capacity to express gratitude, we actually do better. And all of the research shows that, and it's an overwhelming amount of research out there, especially in the field of a positive psychology, for example, and in neuroscience as well. We from a neuroscience perspective, as a neuroscientist, there are tremendous effects on the brain when we live life in gratitude, right? When I feel grateful for something, it literally changes the wiring in my brain. It activates certain areas in my brain that otherwise are switched off, right? So especially those areas responsible for fulfillment and happiness, and all of those kind of things, right? So also, of course, dopamine and serotonin production, right? Serotonin, of course, is strongly linked with depression, because the lack of it is causes depression and insomnia, sleeplessness, all of those kind of things, of course, which then also becomes a physiological disorder, or a physical disorder, where we then see people, with high blood pressure, as they're, as those hormones are also involved with regulating blood pressure and all of those kind of things. We see the blood pressure go up. With that rise in blood pressure, it also creates an increase in inflammation. It creates a decrease in immunity, right? So we become more prone to flus and colds and all of those kind of things. We, as our as that stress response in that body becomes increasingly more chronic, right? The inflammation then leads to longer term disease, like high cholesterol. You're talking about, the potential for development of cancers. You're talking about, things like Alzheimer's disease. All of those kind of things are linked simply with a lack of capacity of showing gratitude, right? Which is crazy, because in a way, our lack of gratitude is also therefore making society much sicker, right? And just by being able to be more grateful, we can change the thing. And here's something that's really interesting, and I wrote this in my book, The Five Energies, as well, is that there's also very strong link between stress and reproductive health. And what that means is that when we aren't capable of expressing gratitude, but also feeling gratitude, a mother who becomes a parent, and is during that gestational period when she's pregnant, her DNA is actually preparing the baby for this future life that this baby is going to be in. And what it does is it primes the baby to be able to function in a high stress, low gratitude environment, meaning that the baby that comes out of you is going to be naturally more prone to be hyper reactive to the environment, more prone to be stressed, more prone to be primed to suffer, right? Because and also they're going to be more primed to not be able to feel gratitude. They're going to be more primed for depression and all of those kind of things. And that change doesn't only happen at a superficial level in our children, it happens at a level of a DNA. And what that means is that our lack of gratitude follows through from generation to generation. We are literally changing the DNA of our species simply because we have lost the capacity to be able to feel gratitude and to be able to express gratitude, because we don't see that value in them from day to day. And you can link so many of today's challenges that we're actually dealing with, in terms of healthcare challenges and all of those kind of things. There's a really strong link with our lack of capacity to feel and show gratitude, right? And so think of this from a leadership standpoint. And I'm not just talking about being a corporate leader. I'm also talking about the nation's leaders out there, people, right? And also parenting, is when we lack that capacity to show genuine gratitude and feel genuine gratitude on a daily basis, we are actually setting up our next generation for failure. And that's pretty powerful, because ultimately, right? I believe inherently that we want to be setting up the next generation for success, and yet we're failing in that division simply because we don't value gratitude, and that's something that costs literally nothing.
Yeah, and I think that's a really great point, because knowing all of these benefits that gratitude has, and I think all of us listening to this inherently also understand the value of gratitude. We've all
Yeah.
had the moments where we're with the people we love or doing something we love, where we just feel this radiating feeling of happiness and joy and fulfillment, and that feels a lot better than the stress, the anxiety, the contraction, right? And what I'm wondering, now that we're bringing leadership into this too, is when we have leaders saying, I don't want to show my gratitude to my people because it's going to stop them from working harder, knowing that by holding back gratitude, it can cause all of these health problems and make people less happy, less willing to work hard for their bosses. And what effect do you think it has for the people in an organization when their leaders actually don't show gratitude and refuse to acknowledge what has been done?
Well, just think of culture and engagement, right? I mean, who wants to go and work for a company that has a culture of no gratitude, where people don't feel appreciated in that way, right? I mean, isn't that like the fundamental thing in culture, right? And yet when you look at organizations spend hundreds of thousands of dollars each year, if not millions of dollars each year, on engagement surveys, culture surveys, doing a needs analysis, doing all of these kind of, every single time they come back and say, well, our people aren't happy. Okay, I wonder what's causing that, right? And so, and then they don't necessarily just want to say, maybe this is a really low cost fix, right? Maybe we just need to be more grateful, because of this fear of, if I show that I'm grateful, right, my people aren't going to work harder, which is nuts,
Yeah,
because it's the opposite.
absolutely. And I think that was a great point made by Austin too. And thank you, Austin, for commenting. That was a great addition to the conversation, is that we are really conditioned to see, showing gratitude as the opposite of growth. And
Mhm.
knowing, I think almost all leaders, in my opinion, probably know that gratitude is important. It is a conversation around,
Oh,
yet it's really
absolutely.
hard to break through that conditioning, right? When we've been told, because every leader wants to succeed, every leader wants their people to
Mhm.
succeed. So the risk of letting go of that never enoughness and instead turning to, wow, look at all the amazing things we've accomplished, that switch can feel like too big of a risk almost sometimes. What do you think could be a potential way of overcoming that?
Yeah, that's a really good point. I think I'm going to add to that. I also think that, one of the challenges as human beings, right, is we love to overcomplicate things, right? I mean, we overcomplicate the hell out of things in life, right? And we love it. And I think we, as human beings, we have a tendency to overcomplicate things because, it makes us feel intelligent. and when we feel intelligent and we feel smart, we feel we have worth, right? And so God forbid there's an easy answer out there. And I think in many ways, the answer, right, of guys, all you need to do is just be more grateful, is almost too simple,
Hmm.
right? It's like wait, no, that can't be it. It can't be that. It can't be. I can't just say thank you and expect everybody to kind of be happier, because that's the thing, right? Is that leaders don't understand actually how difficult it is to be grateful. A lot of leaders think that being grateful is just saying thank you, and I think that is one of the big challenges. Is the ability to show gratitude as a leader is a much deeper thing. It requires training, because it's an embodiment. We have to be able to feel and show gratitude, right, in an authentic way. It can't be an inauthentic exercise, because then people, it's like it feels sarcastic and it feels inauthentic, and then people, and then of course we know that authentic leadership is such an important component of building trust in the organization, and trust is also another element, of course, of employee engagement and culture. And so our ability to show gratitude is actually really hard, and I think that is the problem. Is there's in a way the solution sounds simple, just be more grateful, but the application of it is not that easy, and it requires a tremendous amount of self-reflection, right? Because as a leader, we have to be able to question ourselves. We have to be able to say, am I waking up every day being grateful? And I think that is one of the biggest challenge that we deal with leadership. And so we almost want to overcomplicate the hell out of the conversation, so that we can find the one thing we personally don't have to do, right? Is like, oh yeah, if I can if there's an app out there that makes people more grateful, let's spend a ton of money developing an app, and then everybody's more happy and everybody's more grateful, and therefore people work better. But instead, all we need, that app is within us, right? And so I have a few more comments as well. So Hima says, wonderful insight so far. Thank you heaps, you both, for such great input. She has a meeting, so thank you, Hima, for coming and for your insights. That's awesome. And we have my buddy Andrew Hallam. Thank you so much, Andrew. He says, "Go Marcel and Kilani." Andrew, of course, he's written multiple books on finance. He's a best-selling author of The Millionaire Expat. And one of my favorite books by Andrew, of course, is Balance, his most recent book. If you haven't seen Andrew's book, or you haven't picked it up yet, picked it up. He talks a lot about this subject, believe it or not, when it comes down to finance, right? Because it's also an important component of building our financial wealth. So thank you for commenting, Andrew. That's awesome. So Andrew says he's enjoying the show. Well, wonderful, Andrew, and thank you for joining. Yeah, and so I think, as you were talking, Kilani, something else popped in my mind. You know how we, as Gen X's and Gen Y's, right? We have this way of judging the new generation, right? The Gen Z's, and a word that is used so often, right, is Gen Z's are entitled. They're entitled and they lack resilience. Yeah. And as you were speaking, I'm actually wondering if that's really the case. Or is it possible that we're seeing a generational shift in gratitude, that Gen Zs are being raised with a greater level of awareness, I think, around gratitude, and to a point where to them it's not an earned thing. To them, gratitude is not a, a way to earn your sense of value, but to them it's a right. Right? They have a right to demand gratitude. They have the right to demand gratitude from themselves, but they also have a right to demand gratitude from leadership. And that when they don't sense that gratitude in an authentic way, right? That's when they kind of put those feelers up and go, I don't think I want to be here. Does that resonate?
Yeah, absolutely. And as you were, making those comments about the typical idea of a Gen Z, what came into my mind is the question of, is it that we're entitled, or is it that we have maybe different boundaries than what we've seen before? And I was actually reading an article earlier today from McKinsey about retaining Gen Z employees, because we are seeing this huge turnover, especially with Gen Zs, because as we're seeing, Gen Zs are either entitled or have stronger boundaries, or whatever, however we want to label it. But what's interesting is they surveyed a bunch of Gen Zs, and I forget the percentage, but it was very, very close to 100, said that they would leave their job if they weren't praised, or if they didn't feel that they were valued, and would actually go and seek out another job. And the same or very similar percentage was also for women leaders. We're seeing a huge turnover in women in top tier positions leaving the workforce because they don't feel the level of gratitude that they want. And I do think that Gen Zs have been raised maybe with the value of gratitude, both in our own lives, and also we've been celebrated a lot more. The joke that everyone gets a trophy just for showing up, you get celebrated, which in some ways could be not so great, but at the same time, it has also cultivated this idea that we deserve to be celebrated. Not just Gen Zs, but all people in general deserve to
every human being.
To receive this level of gratitude. And I think that though it may be a bit of a hindrance sometimes having this change, it can also be a powerful shift for all of us to turn maybe a little bit in that direction.
Yeah, and I love that, and it's so funny too, right? Because it actually shows you that my generation is actually capable of showing gratitude, because we're the ones who are giving the Gen Z kids a trophy for showing up. Right? It's not your generation. Your generation is not demanding a trophy for showing. That's my generation that's doing that. So we're to blame, right? But it shows you that there's a reason that why we're doing it, because we know that when we raise our kids and we celebrate them for showing up, they actually do better in life. They're actually more motivated. We know this stuff because we do it with our own kids. And then we turn our heads and we go to the workplace, and with ourselves and with each other, we just throw that out the window and say, well, let's not apply it to each other, right? Because God forbid, what might happen? It's quite interesting, right?
And I think another interesting piece about that, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think a big part of why your generation switched the idea of gratitude with our generation, with the kids that you had, was because you growing up maybe felt a little undervalued by your parents, and you always promised yourself, hey, when I have kids, I'm going to do things differently. And what's really interesting about that is it's the exact same thing in leadership, right? We're seeing high levels of burnout, depression, stress, anxiety. And so we're starting to see that same turn of, wait, maybe we could be doing something different for the next generation.
Yeah. I love how you say that, because actually, if we look at leadership around the world, right, and we look at statistics, because I love that you're bringing that up, and this is probably just a matter of time, right? But when we look at percentages, especially from a diversity, inclusion, and equity, conversation. The percentages of senior level leaders, right? The amount of diversity decreases, right? And so as you go higher, especially in the larger, like the top 100 Fortune companies and stuff like that, they're still run by, middle-aged white men, right? You don't have Gen Zs walking into the boardroom, offering insights, or even Gen Ys for that matter, right? And females, right? I saw a great comment. Was it? I think it was also a McKinsey one, a quote on the amount of senior level leaders, male versus female. And here's an amazing statistic, is that there are more male CEOs with the name Sam than there are women CEOs in total around the world. So you're not even talking about male versus female. The male with the man with the name Sam, there are already more CEOs with the name Sam than there are women CEOs of these top level companies. So that amount of diversity becomes so little, right? And so we're not necessarily having those type of conversations where the younger generations and women and people from different cultures and all of those kind of stuff that practice gratitude. They don't get to walk into the boardroom and say, guys, what are we doing? Right? That section is still very much cut off from the rest of the workforce. And so there's probably a big tie-in with that as well. Got little comment from Charles Caldwell here from Hong Kong. He says, greetings from Hong Kong. Greetings, Charles. Thank you for joining us. It's great to hear from you again. I hope you're doing well. Yeah. When what I'm thinking here is that if we really want to look at gratitude, right, and we really want to, if as an organization, and you say, hey, we want to do something about gratitude, and we want to be able to implement more gratitude in our organization, it's probably way more systemic than and like what you said, it's about finding that generation that wants to do it differently. And right now, I think a lot of organizations are still run by people that want to do it the same, right? They don't necessarily want that change to happen, because change is a scary thing. Like you said, it's like, with this belief system of like, yeah, but if I show too much gratitude, people are going to stop performing. They're going to stop chasing after that carrot, and all of that kind of stuff, which of course is nuts. Yeah, but that's their belief system, and they are so stuck in that belief system, and they are so stuck in a little micro environment that they live in of other, kind of, old white people, men, right? And they're constantly reinforcing to themselves and to each other, through their own biases and all of that kind of stuff, that the way that an organization needs to be run is through doing things old school, right? And I think it's only until we start seeing that influx, as these people start retiring and all of that kind of stuff, right? Then eventually you're going to start seeing more kind of generations of younger people who might start bringing up that conversation, right? But it is really, really interesting as we're bringing that up, is that the lack of gratitude, as simple as the solution might be, is just hard to practice, because it starts with us. It starts with ourselves. And I think that's always a difficulty for people, because it's human nature, right, to want everybody else to change, but not necessarily ourselves. And I think that's if we need to be grateful for anything, it's that we have an amazing capacity for gratitude. And each and every single one of us is an untapped battery of unlimited gratitude. It's just there waiting to be unleashed, if that's what you wanted to do. But it's just whether or not you're choosing to apply it, right? And
Yeah.
so what's your thinking on that?
Yeah, I think it's a great point that it starts with yourself. I think as do most things that we talk about. But what's really important, I think, about this when it comes to creating those changes is because it can be scary. It's okay to start small with the little things, right? It's not to say that, oh, now we're all going to take 4 days off a week, and
Yeah.
or in the office we're going to just hang out and chat all day, right? It's still the same stuff that we're doing. We're still working towards the goals and getting the results, but in the process of that, it's showing up in a different way. It's showing up with inviting people's opinions in. It's showing up in, thanking them, expressing appreciation for them just doing their jobs, and for yourself for showing up and doing your job and handling everything in your life, right? So it's not necessarily doing something different, but showing up doing the same things in a different way.
Yeah, exactly. And and I also want to, kind of as a disclaimer too, there are companies out there that are doing this, right? So there are companies, there are a handful, but there are some companies out there that are coming to this realization that, hey, you know what, we can run this company differently, right? And there's one company, for example, that I'm working with, that's actually just throwing out all titles and kind of positions of authority. And they've literally just thrown them out, and they put everybody in a building, and they've even thrown out job descriptions. Like they're like, we're not giving you job descriptions. We're not giving you a title. We're just like, you're just showing up to work. And we're going to appreciate anything you come up with. You guys decide. Free reign. No, like, we're not going to tell you. We're not going to tell you what your budget is. What you say. You guys just go. And you know what's funny is that immense freedom that these people have to create. They've created a culture, right, of little bowls of groups of people that collaborate together, and they interact. These bowls interact with each other. So as you're working on one project, right, you might be the leader of a project in one project, but another project you might be the follower in a project, and you're collaborating with all of these different balls. They're all connected. It's almost like a brain with all of the neurons connected with each other, and they call it community-based leadership, and they just put a community of people together, and they said the only requirement is that they hire good people. They said when you put a group of good working people who mean well, who want to do great work and all that, and you just put a large group of those people in the same room, amazing things are going to happen. You don't have to tell one person what to do. They do amazing things. And so what they've discovered is that by not having these expectations, right, people are actually already in a short period of a year, they're already far outperforming what other projects and other teams. They're out innovating. They're out there. They're coming up with the most amazing innovations. Because in that organizing, that community, even the janitor, for example, can be part of these projects, because there's no like, well, yeah, you have to stick with cleaning because that's your expertise. That the janitor, for all we know, the janitor is a hobbyist, computer programmer. I mean, we don't know, right? And so all of a sudden they bring all of these people together, and they just create these amazing things. And so we are starting to see some companies that are doing these things, that are just kind of saying, hey, you know what, the way we worked in the past, that just doesn't work anymore. We need to look into the future and have the courage to do things differently. And with that courage comes gratitude, and gratitude is such an important component of that, because from a leadership perspective, if you're not showing those people that you really are grateful for the fact that they're showing up together and that they're putting themselves through whatever it is that they're putting themselves through, they're not going to want to work. But the moment that gratitude is there, they want to show up. That's the power of gratitude. And this has been scientifically proven, that people who work in an environment where they feel appreciated, tend to be, way more productive. I think it's like 20 or 30% more productive, versus when I don't feel as appreciated. Andrew actually just made another comment. Just want to say, he says, thanks, Andrew. He says he's looking forward to reading our upcoming book. Yes, absolutely, and it is on this topic. Yeah. So actually, we are talking to the publisher, and it is the same publisher that you used. It's page two. And we have a meeting with them next week, Andrew. So I just wanted to share that with you. But Kilani and I are working on the book already, and are looking forward to being able to share that in a year or so. So yeah. So thanks for asking. That's great. But yeah, they're doing great. Yeah. So yeah. So in that I guess in that conversation, kind of closing off, right? You know. An organization that I really respect with regards to leadership is the Center for Creative Leadership, and they are, I think anyway, a front runner, in leadership research and all of that kind of stuff. And if you've never looked at their website, at ccl.org, they have tons of articles and all of that kind of stuff. And I found this great infographic that I actually want to end the show with, and I'm going to pop up for you guys. And it really is around, kind of just 4 simple steps of how to actually be able to show more gratitude in the workplace. So here they come. So here's 4 ways to get great at gratitude in the workplace by Center for Creative Leadership. So number 1, right, is focus on people and not performance. That is key. If you think that being a performance-based organization is going to get you into the future, think again, right? Because you are operating on an old-fashioned way of thinking that we need to be measuring performance. We can't measure performance if we can't measure gratitude, and we can't measure employee happiness, right? Because those two go hand in hand. If your people aren't happy, performance is not going to be great. And so we can't just only measure performance and then say, well, we're not going to care about what people do. Flip that around. Spend more of your investment money in focusing on people, not on performance. All right. So that's first one. Second, right, is customize your Thanksgiving. Now, what does that actually mean? Basically, what that means is that every single one of us, it's like the 5 love languages, right? Every single one of us receives love in a different way, or needs to receive love in a different way in order for us to feel loved. A great example, for example, is if you have somebody who's really shy and they don't like to, be out in the public spotlight. Chances are you don't want to call out their name in a town hall meeting, with thousands of people, and try to get that person up on stage because you want to show their appreciation. That person is probably not going to feel appreciated at that moment in time. That's probably going to, make them a little stressed. So you want to be able to customize the way that you show your gratitude for the different ways that people actually need to feel gratitude. Some people like to feel gratitude through gifts. Other people like to feel gratitude through, words of affirmation. Other people like to feel gratitude by, having some quality time with their leader. There are all different ways that people need to feel gratitude. For you, that's an important thing to figure out. Is how does my team like to feel like they're being appreciated, right? And customize your way of saying thanks to what they actually need, right? Third, be specific in your gratitude. And I can't say this enough. You can't just say thank you, right? You can't just say, hey guys, thanks for showing up. That's people don't feel gratitude for that. It's like the same as giving a person a compliment, right? Let's say the waiter in your restaurant, right, is serving you food, and you say, hey, you know what, you did a great job tonight. The waiter's going to go, oh, that's nice, but it doesn't necessarily mean anything, right? But if you say, hey, I noticed, right, like how you placed the knife and the fork and all of that kind of, like, was specific. I noticed how much effort you put into that. I really appreciate it because it looks so cool, right? That becomes very, very specific. It's the same in work, right? Be specific in the type of gratitude that you were, so that a person knows what you're paying attention to, right? And of course, the last one that we've spoken about this a number of times is don't fake it. Right? You can't fake gratitude. The reason is because gratitude is in mind and body. Your body has to embody gratitude. And a human being who embodies gratitude looks different than a human being who doesn't. And so if you just think that you need to say thank you because it's the right thing to do, but you're not feeling it, chances are they're not going to feel it if you say it. Right? So make sure that you're not faking it, because inauthenticity, right, also decreases trust in the organization. So you want to stay authentic, while at the same time you also want to be able to make sure that you can access that gratitude. Now, how do you keep it real? Simple, is by cultivating gratitude in yourself first, right? Like as we mentioned it, learn to be grateful. Right? Focus on triggering your own brain throughout your day to be grateful about things. Be grateful about the innovations that right now, our ability to be grateful, to be able to have this broadcast, and the amount of, thousands and millions of man hours that went into building technologies for us to be able to do that. We can be grateful for these things. We don't have to take them for granted throughout life, right? And being grateful for every single thing that we come in contact with actually rewires the brain. And here's a funny thing: brains that live in gratitude are also more creative and innovative. So if you have a job where you need to do problem solving and to do all of those kind of things, you want a brain that can practice gratitude really well. The better you are at that, the better you are at things like problem solving and all of that kind of stuff. Yeah. So a couple of things to think about. And remember, ccl.org is a great resource for you if you're ever looking for resources. Well, that's about it from me. How about you, Kilani?
Yeah, that's it for me as well. I think this was a really powerful conversation. And I just want to say thank you for all of our viewers for tuning in and spending time with us today. We appreciate all of your comments, and thank you for taking the time to write such great insight in the comments. I really love seeing everything, and you all brought such great points that really contributed to our discussion tonight. What I would love to hear is your biggest takeaway from our conversation. So if you could leave just one word in the comment section that describes something you're taking away with you from our discussion today, I would love to see that. And as always, we go live on this platform every week. It's Tuesday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time and Wednesday at 8 a.m. Singapore time. If you can't make it live, or if this time is a little bit tricky for you, we upload all of our live videos after we go live to our YouTube channel, which, Dad, if you could put the link in the comment section when you have a moment, if you'd like to head over there and subscribe, you'll never miss a video that we post. We always love seeing you live, but if you can't make it, the on-demand is an option as well.
Yep. And also, when you subscribe to our YouTube channel, you will also automatically receive an email the moment we go live. So you will never miss an episode to access. The other thing, too, is also visit us at our website, Level V Partners or level5partners.com. If you scroll down to the bottom of the page, you will also see all of our videos, all of our episodes as well. You can access them there as well. Well, that's all for me. I want to say thank you, everybody, for joining, and again, what wonderful comments from everybody, and of course, happy Thanksgiving, and I hope you get to practice a little bit more of that gratitude over the next few days.
All right, thank you, everyone.
All right, I'll see you. Bye.